Well, my heart has just about calmed down. I hope yours back at home has as well.
I'm going to need you to pretend this post-it says doctor's note on it, because I feel like I need it after that game. That my blood pressure was far too high. But this is what we've bought into with this team, with this set of games here at this tournament. We don't have boring games in this group.
Yeah. Bifrost pull off the most quintessentially Bifrost game I have seen in a long, long time. If you want to know whether this is how all Bifrost games are, yes. Yes, they are. They're all like this. They always happen.
Without exception.
Nearly guaranteed, and I do not understand how they throw so hard in the early game and then pull off the most immaculate of team fighting later.
And it's crazy to me because, you know, they came in as second seed from the NLC behind X7, and we know X7 have shown a good performance here at Amazon European Masters as well. I mean, I thought they were good at team fighting. I thought that if they weren't prepped for and teams were banning out their comfort champions, maybe playing to punish their jungle support early on, maybe we would have seen a lesser result from this team, especially against higher tier opposition, as you often do get when you go internationally. And against a team like BDS Academy, I thought, you know what? Maybe Bifrost have met their match. That's what I was thinking pre-tournament. For them to take them down at 2-0, take a game off Fnatic Team Kesso as well. It, for me, really shows the strength and depth in what we've shown as a region here in the NLC. And of course, we've got them in this game coming up next as well.
Absolutely, we do. And a quick reminder as well, of course, that because of the results there as well, I believe we are guaranteed a tiebreaker due to head-to-heads, because if BDSA win, they will tie the head-to-head against Fnatic Kesso at 3-3, and they'll be 1-1 in terms of the game scores between each other. And if Team Kesso win, they will be 4-2 and tie with, could potentially tie. Bifrost would have to lose. No. That's what it would be.
I gotta check your maths on that one. We've got multiple games left.
Yeah, I'm gonna say, if Bifrost lose,
until the sheet is folding in front of me, I'm believing it. So we'll run to that. So
that's why I keep doing maths in my head.
Anyways, this is where we're stood right now, which means that, of course, with all teams playing 5 games, each game, so we have 2 games left and 1 game left for each of these teams. Yes. So Bifrost potentially could lose against ESCA, and Fnatic could win.
That's
to go 4-2.
Yeah.
If BDS win and then
that's a tiebreaker. So 3-3.
So basically, the last game of the day will determine if we have a tiebreaker between those two. So stick around and watch that one. Gonna have to get a lot more caffeine to live through that one. Oh my gosh, so much energy in today's games.
Hold on to your butts, people. Of course, we've got to get beyond the next game, though, of course, which will be Bifrost versus Team ESCA. Team ESCA had an amazing win against Fnatic Team Kesso in the first round robin, and we have not found the success elsewhere in the game as yet. And of course, they could play blue shell here. They could make things spicy. Take a win off Bifrost would deny them sole first place, at least potentially. So, of course, that's something to work with. But we'll probably delve into that a little later. I believe we're still waiting on highlights that kind of being delved around with in the background. So we're buying a little time.
There were actually too many.
Exactly. So much ridiculousness went on.
Yes, they do. We've actually been advised, you know, again, we had the doctor's note.
Exactly.
Everything.
Production needed it too, turns out. Like, everybody came out of that game and went, what on earth just happened? Which was very exciting stuff, and I think we're about to relive what happened in that game. Because honestly, the early game...
Hold on to your seats, strap in.
No, exactly, it's time to relive it. Try not to get too stressed out. The early game was not good from Bifrost.
No, it was not. It was Cboi. Honestly, the story of Cboi getting shot down by Show, and it was the Jarvan into Poppy matchup, but eventually it came through 2 really messy team fights. Like, really messy ones. This was still, BDS had a huge gold lead, but this was one of the first times we actually saw a bit of a turnaround coming through, and even then it wasn't enough at this point. This wasn't quite the start of the good news story. This is where things just started to plateau a little bit from BDS, and then there were a couple of picks across the map. Crown Shot ended up dying, Gracievo and side lanes struggling to get value as well.
And here it is.
And this is really where the game starts to turn apart, because this is where one of my heart's valves just stops working. I'm like, how does that work out? And Bifrost do that.
Who needs an aorta? I don't need that.
That's the one. But either way, then it just keeps going on, and it just felt like BDS, even with the larger lead that they had, couldn't quite organize the map in a way to kind of really put Bifrost over the fire and over the flames and try and force them into bad situations. Bifrost always found a way to somehow either pick someone out in rotation or get an actual 5v5 for when they actually had their item power spikes. And this, of course, was a bit of an awkward one. It got close again,
but it just didn't quite work out, and they go over the wall and they can't quite make the pick work, and suddenly they just dive straight back out. The problem is afterwards you see a massive chunk onto Ornn, but then Aggressivo just a moment or two
so goes too deep. But then, so what happens after that is that we see the power of the Caliber and Crescendum combo where things happen, but that's actually not fit for public consumption. This was a very near steal again, but even after this, you could see again that Cboi on the Jarvan, gone for the full tank build, actually buys a fair amount of time. And it becomes more and more difficult for BDS to pick off the first target in a timely fashion, and then because they couldn't find these clean wins, it actually came down to an Elder. And you have an Infernal Soul at this point. You have a cannon ready for the flank, but even then, because you're playing against that Qiyana, which you called out so much, right? You called out that Qiyana for shutting down the cannon. Receiver just couldn't find the angles. You can see even here, it came down to actually Receiver abandoning the flank, going straight down the middle, and lays to the Elder going over. And once the Elder's gone over, I mean, Fellows gets the green light button and does that.
Does indeed, and gets a hold of Crownshot, who up until that point have been so difficult to deal with. But my days, Odie, this man in the late game in teamfights does just extraordinary things.
And as much as that Kennen graph looks good, that's mainly sideline stuff. We actually didn't see that many impactful Kennen teamfight ultimates, whereas it actually was just Odie on the FLICKR. And I know that I was talking to coach of JDXL, who's XL's NLC team, and actually when he was voting for the NLC awards in terms of MVPs, he actually gave Odie his MVP. And actually, I wasn't a believer at the time. I was a Haru believer. But then you look at games like this, all the way through play-ins, all the way through the group stage now, and Odie has continually pulled out the most magnificent of teamfight plays on stuff like that of Phalios and Lon the Jinx.
And just look at that gold graph, it looks more like a mountain range. It starts off so well, and then it dips with the first Baron, it goes back up, and then it dips at the Elder Dragon into a very brief window of time where Bifrost actually had a gold lead.
Yeah, and I believe it was World Earth Day recently, and I appreciate that Bifrost are being their conservation efforts towards the survival of the dragon species. I really appreciate that. I think it's very important. They're an endangered species.
Yeah, didn't have to take any mythic animals require help.
That's that one. They had one Elder to the name. We won't talk about that one versus that gigantic winged thing under the co-op, under the counter.
I'm trying to work out where to go with that, and I feel what I'm going to do. I'm going to leave it aside. Just over here, we'll come back to mythic animal conservation later on. Instead, maybe talk about Bifrost versus Team ESCA, because for Bifrost, they win this, they secure first seed. There are no tiebreakers possible, at least for Bifrost. There's still some room to have things happen with Team and BDSA. But Team ESCA, yes, they are out, but they can sure as hell play spoiler. They already got a very good turnaround win. It's like we've seen from Bifrost, all things said and done, against Fnatic TQ in week 1. They do something like that against Bifrost. Maybe, just maybe, they can leave this group with a little bit more pride and a little bit of something for the Ultra League to go home and be proud of.
And I'd say I've really been enjoying the way that ESCA plays, even though it hasn't been so successful. I look at how Mrozku has picked out a lot of the low-range assassins with the Yone, with the Silas, with like Nami. I think that ESCA have been a very dynamic team. They've shown a very different look from what we've seen from many of our other teams. Simply also looking down at Marlon and what's up. But of course, we've just seen Bifrost that continue to come back for this game. Just came away with a heroic victory out of the depths of crazy deficits through Baron steals, through Elder fights, through craziness.
Yep. Look at Odie's face there. Look in those eyes and realize that is not the face of mercy. No. That is a stone cold killer of an AD carry right there, who has been phenomenal for Bifrost.
Stay frosty.
Indeed. All the mythical references to Norse mythology there. There you go. Of course, they're not the only team up. Of course, Team ESCA have been doing not quite as well as they would have hoped for. And again, it was a very challenging group. Very challenging, but even so.
So actually, I would just replace Mrozku's picture there with just a picture of Yone. Like, no, this guy has been really going back to that pick, and it's been so entertaining to watch. But I mean, ESCA in this tournament, they weren't coming in necessarily with the highest of expectations from my knowledge, and I think they are again, they're a very new team to EU Masters. You look at a lot of their players having their first tournament at this level, and even despite that, I think they've had some very entertaining games. I think that Marlon, very big playmaking support. Talked about Mrozku as well plenty of times. And I don't see this as a free win at all. This has been a close group. You look at those games, but you notice how many of those games have been very close, back and forth, late game upsets. That can happen in any of these remaining games. Though ESCA are not going forwards from this group to the quarterfinals, they are not dead in the water yet.
No, they are not. And they can certainly take someone down with them, which is exactly what they would be looking to do here. They have got that power to their name, and yes, they're into a group which is full of not just very high-end talent from around the real, but a lot of veteran talent, as you said. A lot of these guys are a little bit newer to the international.
Speaking of that talent, though, I mean, you look at the Ultra League, you look at like a lot of the Polish talent coming out of that, and Polish talent has always made a splash. You look across all of the ERLs, you look up towards the LEC, so many big names come out of this region, out of that country, and I look at a lot of these players coming through again. they may be newer on the scene, but that doesn't mean they can't have that spark and they can't continue that kind of like that along that kind of trajectory with so many other people from that region have to.
Absolutely. And of course, this is a team, some of these players to keep our eyes on, because a lot of the current Polish talent left the Ultra League, have gone to all the various regions. Odie came from the Ultra League. He is a Polish player.
He was, in fact, an Ultra. He was actually on PDW last split.
It did incredible work there. So this is kind of the new wave of Polish talent, because there is always a new wave of Polish talent. And I'm excited to,
actually, it feels like.
Indeed. That talent machine, that country and that league, in the end, and I'll have to see what they can do here. And we've got to keep an eye on how they play out this game into picks and bans. Bifrost at 4-1. Absolute mirror image of Team ESCA here, who are 1-4. Bifrost, though, over onto the blue side, though, means they have to think about a slightly different draft priorities. Could look towards that B1 Jinx rather than necessarily giving Shikari a little bit more priority in terms of his lane.
And it depends what ESCA wants to do in terms of, we know that they do play some atypical drafts. We've seen Marlon, if you go back to their playoffs, they will play stuff like the Blitzcrank in certain lanes and X, Y, Z, and of course, we've already talked about that. I mean, maybe that means that they're happy to let the Zeri go through. We've seen a couple of unconventional answers in something like the Zeri that's often been a red side ban, but as it seems, we've seen this a lot throughout the group stage, a lot throughout the play-ins as well. You just ban away AD carries from Odie to stop him having those magnificent performances like he had in that last game.
There's a world here where Team ESCA as well decide, now that we're out, maybe it's time to play with no holds barred. Pull out something a bit weird. Try and get the curveball thrown, especially if you feel that's the way forward. Alas for me, though, the xeonerr is taken away from Mrozku, which is a worthy ban, I am sure, but it's very much a target.
Okay, so you can ban away the Zeri. There is plenty of powerful stuff left on the table, though. It's actually something which I love the terminology which Goldborg uses in terms of saying it's an overloaded draft when you ban too many like name-plated players, champions rather, because you ban away stuff like the Jinx and the Fellows. Maybe earlier in the split that would have been more accepted because it was, it's something you wanted to play around it. But when you play all this stuff, I mean, there's a lot of stuff still left up. There's stuff like Volibear, which is very big. We know that
Cboi is
such
a big
and of course
Volibear.
with that, I mean, it is going to be Volibear locked in. This has been one of Cboi's more successful early game champions. We saw last game, of course, Cboi struggled in that regard. This can paper over some of those cracks.
So what I'll say is this does potentially leave an angle for Team ESCA to pick up the Ahri away from Furuy, who has been very good on the champions. A lot of the playmaking is a very good pairing with the Volibear. Instead, though, they'll take up that last very high priority AD carry. They've gone towards the Misfortune. Maybe they can still look towards a mid laner here as well.
So, I mean, the thing about the Misfortune is that you can lock it in with something like the Jarvan, not just for the combo between themselves, but I mean, normally in a normal draft, it'd be like, okay, it'll be, you're not playing against the Jarvan as the Misfortune, so there's less backline access against you, but because the Jarvan is already not going to be locked in for Bifrost because the Volibear's locked in, it's going to be the Nocturne instead. We saw ESCA play this a little earlier today. It was alongside that xeonerr. It didn't work out so well for them, but it's still backline access. But you're going to have to dive into another very powerful 2v2, Lucian Nami.
That was an instant lock. Bifrost say, fine, you banned out 3. Let's show you what we can do with this little pick. It's been one of those pairings that if you are confident in the way you play lane, you can absolutely dominate. And Odie and DuaLL back in the NLC were pretty good at being lane dominant. It's been a little bit more mixed here at the EU Masters, even if they have been phenomenal towards the late game and team fight stages. Response from Team ESCA is even more long-range follow-ups. They've got themselves the Ornn.
And now you look at the Lucian, you think, you don't really want to be playing a short-range champion versus the Nocturne. You really don't want to be doing that and standing around in the Misfortune ult. Actually, Ornn's pretty bad for that too. Oh, what happens if they lock in a Leona? Like, there's a lot of stuff which then Lucian is really, really going to struggle in late-game team fights into. And that is not something which you want to see from Bifrost, MVP star bot lane carry of Odie. I mean, normally you want him to have games like he had last time on the FLICKR where he has extra options to just keep playing away in the late game team fights. If it is going to be, I mean, the Nautilus is already banned away, but there's a lot of backline access champions which could be locked in from Marlon of the playmaking variety, which is in their wheelhouse to really make Odie struggle.
Still debating between potential mid lane picks here as well. I doubt we see a shake-up, but we will see a Rumble locked in.
Okay, so
which is just Rumble mid, unless the Nocturne's being flexed.
You say that. There is an outside world where Rumble
We've seen that.
Many years ago, many moons ago in 2020, Rumble was played quite a lot as a support. Probably going to be mid lane. I don't think Furuy has had the best laning phases. Now, it has left open the Ahri into it. I'm a big fan of Ahri into Rumble, but either way, you can look through a lot of these picks, and Bifrost are very happy to lock in split push, team fight damage threat, Gwen into Ornn is not a happy matchup for HeSSZero.
It's also pretty sad for the Misfortune because your ult is immune. It's pretty sad into something like the Rumble to an extent. The Nocturne does not want to dive into your area.
So that's the other thing, actually. Gwen into Nocturne, if you press W, so you see the lights go out, if you press W, because you're untargetable, Nocturne can't actually fly to you at that point. So if you get the timing right and you win that mind game, actually Gwen is not easy to gank from the side of Nocturne. We'll see what ends up happening with this. It's going to be... I think the Ahri's fine here. You're hypermobile. You're not going to be someone that's going to get locked down onto various teamfight ultimates. And the Everfrost in this game very much helps the Gwen function a little bit more easily. So I think that in this game, I will tacitly allow an Everfrost to be built. I'm normally a Luden's Magi's.
Okay. We're about to see a supreme display of time. It is. It's Qiyana Jones and the Carpets of Doom. It's back.
Sam might have spilled the beans a little bit on that. Because in 2020, we came across our most favorite name for a composition ever. You lock in Rumble, you lock in Qiyana, and it becomes Qiyana Jones and the Carpets of Doom. You got an Ornn on one side, you got the Equalizer on the other, Qiyana going down the middle. Let's see if we can get a boulder rolling down in this game. I'm so happy. I'm so happy.
We are actually one of the few caster pairings who have decent high-level competitive experience casting this champion. It's a very different game, but there it is. Rumble plus Misfortune bot. You've got Qiyana to follow up. I am very excited. I asked them to throw the kitchen sink out. They've thrown like the whole damn kitchen.
And Qiyana into Ahri is a serious 100-0 threat into the mid game once you get up towards 2 items. I'm not entirely sure what build is going to be played on Qiyana nowadays. It's changed quite a lot over the last kind of year or so. You can build Miramana on it. You can go towards Eclipse. Prowler's Claw got nerfed quite a bit, so there's some mythic options kind of in there. So you could actually, again, so that's why you might see that Eclipse. But I'm really interested to see now how ESCA play out their very high pick potential with long-range Carpets of Doom comp.
That's a lot of burst, it's a lot of pick. But it's also the kind of game where if you do not kill off everybody or enough people, and someone like Gwen or Ahri gets to reset, then suddenly the turnaround and extended fights get pretty ugly for Team ESCA.
2, they don't have the largest amount of consistent DPS. If you run all of your skills into a Nami ultimate, things don't go so well, but then again, Nami doesn't exactly have ways to survive.
She could turn into sushi quite quickly.
Yeah, Nami doesn't have a lot of ways to really defend a lot of things. HeSSZero is actually spotted by the living ward of Shikari, and that means there's going to be a little bit of damage straight back. It's not really going to affect anything. HeSSZero is going to regen up and go back into that laning phase.
Nautilus and Volibear kind of standing outside of that entrance, seeing what's going on. And Mrozku just hanging around on the other side here as well. Nothing super crazy in this level 1 though. Cboi on the other side. Just debating going forwards for a ward, but I think spotted out Nocturne and decided maybe not right now. So interesting thing here as well. Harpoon's not gone towards the tier stop, which we've seen a lot from, say, Nata. They've been playing the Misfortune quite a lot over in that group. And it's going to be the Doran's Ring. AP scaling on the E. Of course, the Comet being taken as well very much makes things kind of annoying. I would imagine we're going to go see, some skill shots traded for bush control. Thing is, though, if you stack up for a double make it rain, it's just really annoying for the bot lane. Lucian Nami actually going to get disengaged fairly heavily here at level 1 if they have to run into that. And I was chatting with Orc yesterday because we saw a Lucian Nami then as well. And the point is, like, Lucian Nami is very bursty, but you don't necessarily have 100-0 threat. It's pre-level 6. And that could be pretty difficult to something like this Misfortune Rumble, where you jump into them, you get some burst, and then suddenly all the slows land, and you start getting run down back away again.
You say that. Level 1, especially with the bonuses, with the buffs to Lucian in the last couple of patches, with the passive being buffed in terms of the amount of scaling you get on the vigilance passive. If you start E on the Nami, you walk into a brush and you get press the attack, auto reset from the Lucian, you can very much die level 1 very easily.
To quote Mad Eye Moody, constant vigilance. That's what you're looking for, but the Make It Rain, the Electro Harpoons, now the Flame Spitter just forced off the wave right now, and exactly the easiest to deal with at this point with the double Comet and just the ability to trade through minions.
That's, again, if you start getting brush control, you stop the Lucian Nami getting large amounts of abilities to play around. Again, that very early burst window and start getting the electrocute and press the attack onto singular targets. Yeah, you can start zoning them off. They're quite low range. That's why you call down a jungler, someone like a Volibear, who was, of course, left through as that first pick. Cboi looking to have a better early game than the last one. Has an opportunity now to tilt this in a 3v3.
Out as well, of course. Harpoon burned a lot of their mana now. I think he's got room for 1 Make It Rain, if that now left. And that is the problem of only going towards the Doran's Ring, and that especially with the sustain available from Odeon Duel, they're not that upset with how things are right now.
And actually, speaking of all these lane states as well, top lane's even, but you can see that Fury's doing more than fine in the mid lane. Qiyana can struggle at level 1, which is where Ahri is very, very strong. And if you start getting electrocute trades early, you can notice that Fury's taken the ignite. There is actually a chance of kill pressure should Mrozku misstep one more time, has one more pot left to go through. But again, options in both mid and bot for Cboi. Should the lanes give them an opening.
Flash, a charm, and an ignite in mid lane. Deadly tools there as the bot side this wave now. They should back out a little bit and deal with that mana discrepancy to their favor. Can maybe start to put some own pressure down as John are going to try and get a hold of that crown.
Okay, so see actually Cboi walking into the bot side jungle and trying to see where the camps were respawning. This is a potential dive, and this would be pretty dangerous.
Oh, so much damage! There's an exhaust, but it's too late. Thundering Smash secures that one. Now Cboi needs to flash away, but will get burned down in trade.
Okay, so actually looking with that, with the top lane play happening too. Very unfortunate now for Bifrost. They've lost Shikari. You know what happens when Ornn starts stabilizing the lane phase. They become very, very difficult champion to deal with. But at least the AD carry is out of lane now from ESCA. So if you sat there as a Bifrost fan, you're happy to deny some farm away. But again, not the blowout early game that they were looking for with a Volibear.
No, but they did get every summoner from bot lane. Every single one. So there is a world now where you can return and make that a lot more deadly the next time around. And honestly, with the Lucian and the Nami, there's a world where you can punish that pretty hard. Not out of mana to get out of there. But you're right. Shikari did get caught in that top side. Did cost a flash from Nocturne, but he did make it work.
So let's see what happens with this one. Because normally you're saying, okay, well, Nocturne, normally not going to be ganking too early, but this isn't going to be
beautiful.
Yeah. It's beautiful in some ways. It's also Shikari not really stepping into the right place to have the W out of range of that searing charge. And have a disengaged dive on top side is, again, diving on kind of difficult, especially when he starts that flash.
Don't quite get enough damage down, and they pull off the dive without being too worse of aware that, especially without the ghost and the flash, it would have been a bit bold. HeSSZero with all of those summoners available.
Yeah, speaking of HeSSZero, he used to be in the NLC.
Indeed.
Was over on Granite for a while, so we are fairly familiar with him. Of course, we were. I cast a couple of games with him actually last month. It was first being introduced to the NLC sphere. Interesting kind of meet up again across the ways with all this involved. But coming out to this mid lane, see that Mrozku is 20 CS down on the count. However, is now at a point where potentially they can start roaming towards these players, and if we know that Cboi has occasionally been caught out, Shikari starting to fall behind, you've got Nocturne flying in across the way. Watch out for that Qiyana's impact. They do a lot of damage early on.
Keeping an eye on Nocturne as well. When will the level 6 come through? Because level 6, Mrozku plus xeonerr will be a very dead player, you think. Bot side though, the shove continues. Now without the summon, it's a lot harder to trade. Aqua Prison was dodged away from though. And marlon can maybe think about stepping forward themselves. We'll take a big trade back. Man, that's a lot of damage.
Isn't, again, very bursty lane as you're saying. When cooldowns are up, Lucian Nami just does so much. Fury actually has level 6, and see what's going to happen towards here. Cboi's here too. They see the Ahri. Do they see the Volibear? I'm not sure they do. They're going to get Aqua Prison. Here comes all the damage.
The big charm afterwards is 2 dead. Fury gets out, but there will be HeSSZero with the Ornn. Going to try and get some of the DuaLL flashes away and will survive.
And now you've got your Ornn who's burned their teleport and everything. Mrozku's spotted on the way down. Bifrost get away with a clean dive, and I was questioning what they were going to do with this Lucian Nami.
And he's searing charged in. He doesn't even get out. DuaLL gets that one, and it's now a 3 for number. I still think about
You know what I was about to say? Okay,
go. Has got flash, but no.
There's an exhaust still on Odie. Potentially could pull that in time to deny a lot of that damage coming through from Qiyana. But as that kill was happening, as the last catch was happening, I was just about to go into a point and say, you lock in the Lucian Nami after seeing so many champions that deal with you so well in team fights. You got to do well early. What's going to happen with this? How much are you going to be able to get out of this? Turns out, actually, after 1 kill earlier on and then a much more clean 3-kill bot side confrontation, Bifrost actually getting a lot of value out of this pick. I wasn't sure they were going to be able to, but the two of them managing to pick out a lot of extra gold from these plays.
While all the summoners were still down, they return and make good on the investment from earlier. But this time, HeSSZero just had that brief glimpse of vision, but it's too late. He's already searing charged in, and it's a searing charge straight to a grey screen.
Yeah, much like a bowl of petunias says, "Oh, not again." It's the top laner's guide to everything.
The ultimate improbability drive. That's what a summoner spellbook is. I take it. No one's running that this game though, so perhaps that reference will sail a little wide this time around.
Okay, so a little less away from really obscure sci-fi. It's not.
It's not that like, okay, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Sure, okay, anyway, moving on. We've already referenced too much. Okay, so we now have Cboi with some extra gold, has that Predator, able to go in with those tier 2 boosts. Bot lane has hit level 6 as well, beyond what's happened from the ESCA bot lane. When you don't have a flash here from Rumble, potential chance of you getting shut down. See what's happening around here. Bot lane, again, is just the continual lane they want to play around. 3v3 evolving.
Here, Qiyana could go for the paranoia, but here they go. It will be a 3v3, and now Qiyana has to be in so much trouble to flash away from Odin, but the Stormbringer come through. Mrozku is nearly here, but he's not quite here yet. Bullet time after flash away the tidal wave, disengages so well. There's a flash available though, and a supreme display of talent, but once again, the Qiyana's not there in time.
And again, this is just not the area of the map you want to be playing around if you're ESCA. This is what Bifrost want to be doing, and ESCA are kind of just having to play disengage and trade back there. Mrozku has the flash. See what happens.
Cboi still hanging around though. He could potentially punish. Gets a stun onto Mrozku into the aqua prison. So much damage down. He's gonna get taken out. Odie gets a killing spree. And the Qiyana just gets caught.
But why are you playing around bot side? This is not where your point of power is. I get what... If you kill the duo lane, it's huge value for ESCA. It's just very high risk doing so. While this is happening, Mrozku has died. That is a 40 CS lead over to Furuy. And Furuy, this player who hasn't really been involved so much, but is just kind of getting up to points of power, getting closer to a point where actually ESCA are going to have to deal with their mid lane losing all of its plates. It's 3 down, just an isolated auto-attacking the tower. Qiyana's tried to try and bail out this bot side, and ESCA are really not rolling with the punches well so far.
We'll see this turnaround here, because Qiyana comes through, but it's just a quick flash away, followed by that relentless pursuit, and Qiyana just can't stay on.
Can't, and again, probably need to reference this at this point, because Cboi again talked about how awkward his early game was against BDS Academy. This early game has been so impactful. The Volibear first pick, it's showing so much value. It's what we expected this pick when we see it locked in, but to see it get this much value is beyond what we expect. The CC combo into Lucian's burst, absolutely absurd onto Qiyana, 100-0'd. And at this point, when you have, again, such a bursty duo lane combo, we keep saying that, so far ahead, reached that mythic item before HARPOON has even reached what looks to be the Leandries coming out as well. It's the first item, of course. Remember, your ult has an AP scaling, but still does physical damage. Even after that, you know, Lucian is so far ahead of the curve because of the efforts of Odie, DuaLL, and Cboi. ESCA cannot fight around this Lucian for the time being.
No, they can't. And yes, you know, they have burnt the flash. They've still got Gale Force, still got Relentless Pursuit. They'll have Exhaust up at some point. Between, like, 3 movement abilities and Exhaust, it's going to be so hard for the Nocturne to actually stay on top of the Lucian.
Cboi's going to take down the Herald as well. Remember, this is the first Herald. Plate's still on the table, able to basically put that wherever they want. The thing is, the difficulty with ESCA now playing against potential Herald is you don't want to play around the Lucian, but you have to play around with the Herald is because you can't give that much extra gold over if you don't have a cross map available. So if you go and give... if you give the Herald over, which has now been taken, and this goes over to Lucian, you're in so much danger.
Oh, so but they find the charm, they'll get the kill and get out. Qiyana can't make the chains connect. Has to stay away. That lash is broken.
Yeah. And I have to say, I absolutely love this matchup of Ahri and Qiyana. It's a lot of mind games. It's a lot of guessing where that next W is going to go for various mobility, and Furuy has been massively winning it out, partly due to the efforts of Mrozku, again, as I said, trying to bail out that bot side of the map. Now, Furuy is so strong in isolation, hasn't even really needed any jungle attention for that. Bifrost very happy across pretty much the whole map now.
At this point, they are up about 4,000 gold. How much they were down last game? Honestly, at this point in the game, it feels like they've still got that Herald inventory to break down likely the mid lane turret. Honestly, with where it's at in terms of the HP, that would be a quick Herald charge to secure that and put Qiyana even further behind in this game. But I could see bot lane also being a priority here for this Lucian.
I think that when you see the Herald, and again, I think the logic is you want to be playing around your Lucian, around this power spike. You want to, and actually, I was actually wanting to go to the Gale Force, just use it for Lucian there. I saw a random thing, a timer on that. Ignore me, whatever. But I think the argument is you want to play around the Lucian. ESCA do not want to play around the enemy Lucian. They don't want to fight into that. The Herald forces the issue, and you don't really get the ability to deny Bifrost when they put the Herald into that lane. And we see that ESCA's actually see HARPOON recalling, and I think that's going to be more plays going over. I'm actually not sure. See, the ult's going to have to be used there from Rumble to clear out the wave. They see the danger. I'm just not sure what they can do about it.
They can't, and that's going to be... They'll try the best, but with the Herald there, it'll tank up enough. There's still a ranged minion there as well. They'll get that initial, that 4th plate down shortly. Only 1 plate remaining. Yes, the Nocturne will nearly have Paranoia available, but again, with Cboi around, I don't think you win if you go in, especially with the Rumble ult.
Well, you don't have the equalizer. You're going into double ults from Lucian, Nami, and of course the exhaust. Nocturne is not in a happy place unless someone massively oversteps.
That might be just it. Flash away for the tidal wave still coming through, and the unspeakable horror procs. DuaLL goes down, and finally Team ESCA gets something.
Okay, fair play. We talked about the overstep. It's got to come in, and DuaLL fires out the ult, but it goes straight into the spell shield. Not able to pop that before, but all those ults have just been used.
Shot still around, but they're getting the exhaust down. marlon is so down low. Won't quite fall on the other side. Cboi can't quite secure the kill of the Nocturne either.
Oh, it's closer and stuff, but that is still going to be asking. I have to retreat from this tower. Harpoon, not sure you're safe there. There's a flash, there's an ult from Cboi, and mid lane, see that, just on an isolated level. Again, Furuy, while all this is happening, even if Bifrost don't get massive leads out of bot lane from this individual play.
Okay, Stormbringer to shut down the tower, gonna break it, but Cboi now just dies, surely. Unspeakable Horror won't quite proc, but flash away from the Duskbringer and stays alive. The Make It Rain comes down, but they will not be able to actually cash out. They throw a lot at it, but they do get away. Cboi bold with the tower.
But look at this now, 14 minutes, teleports have just been unleashed, and there's a teleport on Gwen. If people are pushing in, you can see there's a blue ping actually towards that bot lane. They're teleporting.
Has to flash out, and the teleport comes in through the bot side. Big charm in the mid lane though, won't quite secure the kill. Ignite comes through alongside the stopwatch to buy space. It's a kill for Furuy. He's got a reset, but can't get out of the flames, but it's a 1-for-1 down there. As in the bot side, Shikari gets the kill there as well.
Okay, so xeonerr goes down at that point, and using the window of power, just seeing that Ignite ticking back up, takes an isolated first turret, and ESCA really, again, struggling to play the game around the areas of the map that they want to. They've overstayed in the spot lane trying to find something, and yeah, half time you see it happening, go, well, that's me done.
Time for the haircut. Well, he gets quickly cut down to size. He's got Strikebreaker in now, at least to try and prevent as easy an escape. But we've already said it's quite challenging to stay on top of these targets.
It is, however, on the other side, you know, one of the things that we're talking about is how much value do you actually...
Oh my days, Harpoon taken so low! Down about 10% HP, does stay alive, does burn the flash though to do so.
This is kind of part of a wider conversation about something I was just about to say. How much value can you get out of Lucian Nami in the early game? Because you get through the mid-late team fights into all of these AoE ultimates which punish low-range champions like Lucian, you're not going to be particularly happy. They've gotten a lot of value. You see that Misfortune can't really push up in lane, has to back off, has to blow flashes, has to be so respectful.
Charm lands so much damage. He's just 100 to 0. Now they'll keep hunting. Marlon solo, the next in line. So much damage comes back. It's an Orbit Deception for a double kill, and that means resets. The Shroud of Darkness will not be popped, but Furuy can't quite secure the jungler as well. But he'll take 2 kills like that.
Really will do. You know, Furuy sat there with Darksteel and Infantry, did die and lose a couple of stacks. Now, I'm going to say something which I will continue campaigning on. Buy the book, Furuy. It's a really good game for it. You're starting to snowball ahead. Not many things that can shut you down. When you have plays like that, you start stacking with Medjais, this game feels like it would be as good as gone. But either way, Furuy, you know, this player who has done so much Ahri gameplay in this region.
Strikebreaker's down, the Relentless Pursuit away, trying to break the Unspeakable Horror. Can't quite do it. Flashes on the tower, looking for the kill now. It might well be a 1-for-1. The tower comes through, and he will fall down. He's just out of range of the turret. They're trying to wait for the minions, and they'll give it over to Furuy.
I'm just saying, that's Darksteel stacks in the grand plan of trying to get people to buy the book. I'm still happy with that one. But Odie over-pushing a little bit in the side lane, and again, you can see one of many reasons why Lucian can struggle in this game, but they're so far ahead of the curve at this point. They kind of made a bit of a statement by saying, look, we're going to play this even into a comp, which is a little bit difficult for him. Just smashing lane to the point where it feels like ESCA really going to struggle to come back in this game.
That mid lane discrepancy is 3,500 gold. It's 2.5 in bot side. Even everywhere else, you're looking at around, what, like 300 for xeonerr is the only lead I'm looking at.
And, you know, this comes into a wider conversation, which I have with a few people in terms of, you know, it's great to see your main champion being played after such a long time of being away from the meta. Last time Ahri was played basically Season 3 at large scale. Season 5 when the rework came in the first time was an event, but one of the negatives I have of Ahri in EU is that a lot of teams haven't really been playing Ahri particularly well. They've been playing it because it's a blind pick in the draft, and it really is teams like Bifrost for me, which make me very happy to see this champion back on stage and to be able to cast my main champion to pro players, because actually players like Furuy are looking for the flank angles, playing aggressively, playing a little bit close to the limits, and in games like this, when you can outplay the individual lane matchup too, it's so exciting to see.
Doing exceptionally well right now. NLC's second seed looking to secure first place in this group of death. Reminder again, we had 3 second seeds and a first seed from 4 of the 5 biggest ERLs currently in Europe. that is quite a statement to come through as a second seed and manage to do this kind of work here. They're going to try and...
Oh, he's alone again.
He is alone again. They're going to try and get on top of him. The equalizer afterwards, but they can't quite secure it because, of course, the culling means he would have taken too much damage and he gets away with it.
Okay, so leaving Lucian alone in a lane is probably not the play. Gonna say that's Bifrost. That's a way how you get your Lucian put further behind and not able to use his own power spikes. However, that's still Paranoia down. That's still equalizer down as well. So when you're coming around to the next fight you want to take, have those available.
Got a call of the Forge God, but the Thundering Smash comes through. You got the HeSSZero. Furuy steps forward, the Everfrost flash away. Gonna try and get the big knock-up, rather. On the other side, Jordan falls down. It's a 2 for none right now. The bullet time will come through, but Cboi immunes it with a stopwatch. Now Harpoon in so much danger. Marlon kind of caught in an awkward position, but does the blast go? Not the while. It's a double kill to Furuy again. 15-5 right now in kills from back over the wall. Back
Again, if you're going to use the Paranoia to take away stuff like the exhaust, you can't be opting into fights after that point. ESCA just take too much of a risky path in. Okay,
goes in, but the charm afterwards was so good. Stopwatch comes through. Aqua Prison buys time, and DuaLL secures the kill. The assist is absolutely required.
And a quick emote spam there from DuaLL afterwards. That was a heck of a play. Catches them just with the Aqua Prison, and you have your Paranoia coming back up. Maybe you can shut down someone on the side lane, but I don't think you really want to be diving into a lot of Bifrost. And they got the Herald push going on, and Bifrost continuing to take control of this game. Reminder, this locks first place. No tiebreakers, no ifs, no buts, but Shikari is going to have to kill this.
But it's not a 1v1. The equalizer comes through, but Gwen is immune because she has the Hallowed Mist. Aqua Prison gets a hold of the Ornn, but Marlon and John are still thinking about heading forward. Harpoon is coming as well. The rest of Bifrost aren't around, but there's not going to matter. They disengage, and they just can't make it stick.
No, but they still get away with the Herald push. They take away some ultimates again, and if ESCA can't overlay them, it's going to be so difficult for them. Furuy has so much damage in pocket.
Level advantage on
around with the sweeper, and I really love when you take control of a game like this, when you don't have to be so afraid of people instantly stunning and jumping onto you, just clearing out that vision.
Here we go! Forces a flash straight out of Harpoon.
And that's the kind of pressure you have, right? You take control and you just black out the entire jungle. They don't have enough wards now to ESCA to really track what's happening with the Volibear, track what's happening with the Ahri if they go into fog, and very holding ESCA over the flames.
Indeed. They're going to carry on regardless. Is a reference to some power metal from back in the day. We'll leave it at that.
It is?
It was a very soft reference.
So, I know we make references. That one is not what I was on board with.
It's fine. We'll come back to it later. It was a bad attempt at Dragon Ball referencing.
Viewers.
It's true. That's fair. That's probably a very reasonable place to be. I don't suggest being in my headspace. It's a weird place at the best of times. Either way, Infernal Dragon has spawned. It's one dragon apiece right now, and Qiyana will face check Volibear. I'm not sure he wants that, but the into the bullet time. It's absolutely phenomenal. 2 are dead.
There we go. So
wait, Shikari, is it a 1v5? He might get Harpoon. Will do. And now he's trying to trade out, but the unspeakable horror ensures that is the swift journey to the grey screen. Furuy doesn't have ultimate quite yet.
Okay, so that was a lot of ultimates used, and some problems on our end. Things are just frozen up a little bit, but again, we can see what happens when ESCA finally
get themselves back alive, and Fury's just getting more kills. Has got ultimate. It is a stolen objective bounty, rather, but Odie and Furuy can keep trading. The unspeakable horror comes through, but they're just going to absolutely wipe it. That was a 2v4.
And oh my gosh, the Zhonya's buying so much time. Double passive procs from the Ahri gets all of that healing back in, and now actually with the respawns coming up, I actually wonder if Bifrost could start towards the Baron. All of those ultimates were just used. They just gave up a huge fight on the other side. Bifrost see themselves the clear shot.
That is the problem when you give this much gold over. Yes, you've got an incredible wombo combo. Yes, it got you 3 kills, but with all those done and out, suddenly the remaining members could just turn in and 2v4 you like that.
And Harpoon has the ultimate, maybe able to do something around this Baron, but we're going to go back and actually watch the replay. Harpoon's got the picture. Thank you for the introduction for that one. But this is the kind of corridors you don't want to play into. Nami, as we were kind of pointing out earlier, not the champion who can really start tanking up a lot of what happens later into the game with these big ultimates. Shikari can, though. Shikari very much can, and even in a 1v5 takes one down, uses a lot of spells from the other side too in an attempt to stay alive. But at this point, you don't have your big target access, and Ahri's base damage is enough to really be threatening. You have the ultimate stacks kind of keep bringing them back, and even though you're diving into 2 melee AD assassins, the Zhonya's has so much value on the passive, wins out the day.
They spent so much time trying to kill that Ahri that unfortunately Odie at 3 items manages to murder everybody else. Odie, Gale Force, Relentless Bliss shoot forward, gets the exhaust. They're going to come in on top of him, flashing away, but the unspeakable horror will land. Ebb and Flow doesn't quite keep him alive. It's a 1-for-1 though as Cboi comes in to make sure it's still an even trade.
Okay, so it's still a lot of ultimates burn, but that's still, you know, double summoners away. Fury might have the flash available, has the ult, maybe going in.
They're going to try and keep going. They're getting on top. Harpoon, he's just gone. Don't even need to burn the charm. And on the other side, the Aqua Prison lands on the HeSSZero, who's going to have to Searing charge back to his own tower. Shikari kind of between said two. Turret to Cboi, going to need the blast go to get over here before he gets roasted out.
Still got himself the ultimate, but again, you can see that Bifrost continuing to put themselves in decent positions. I mean, they are getting picked off at a couple of points. They're not maybe crushing through this game as readily as they want to. I wonder if they're starting to split the map because they're afraid of all of these layered ultimates and they don't want to take themselves the big fights. Where again, we saw what can happen when all those ultimates overlay onto one squishy target.
Problem is, yes, you can get these individual picks, but again, we've seen before as another charm lands. It's just a dead Ornn. Marlon takes so much damage, has to flash away. The ignite is down. Will still just about survive. The Rammer's thumbs up comes out. Just about okay.
And well, while all this is sad, I mean, still got the Baron buff. On the side of Bifrost, Cboi decides that he's the one who's going to be pushing out the side lanes. Okay.
Just wise.
Paranoia is back and available, remember. But again, I think if Bifrost, if it's going to be Cboi the one that's on the side lane.
Oh, okay. So much damage. Furuy is a legend in this game. He's still got, he's got a Zhonya's to time out the Flame Spitter. But the Equalizer will come through into a supreme display of talent. It's 2 dead already. Now Cboi and Odie need to find their way out. But actually, there's so much already burned. Maybe they can make this another multi-man turnaround. Mrozku stays alive and Cboi flashes over the wall, staying alive, has a Sky Splitter. And that is actually another turnaround. Shikari's still not turned up.
Shikari is just not bothering with the rest of his team this game, apparently. The rest of the Baron buff is going to just about wear off, but good number of kills coming in the way of ESCA once more, and that they do have the ability to turn around if Bifrost make ample mistakes, and they've not been the cleanest in this late game. Again, maybe they've been splitting up the map to avoid getting totally blasted by, again, Qiyana Jones and the Carpet of Doom, our favorite compositions of all time. But more than happily playing out the pick game and using their mobility with the Ahri, with the Lucian to close down the targets they need to. I mean, Misfortune is really struggling to stand and fight.
And it looked so good for a second when Harpoon just disappeared, but then the overstay was definitely in.
It was. You can maybe just choose to go out at this point. You've already half health, Nocturne, Fury, maybe just a bit of miscommunication.
Mrozku.
What really saves this fight is that stopwatch from Odie, because if Odie goes down, then that's basically a Baron push. Baron push over. You don't have any of the. You give over the shutdowns at the same time, and ESCA maybe get a little more gold to play. Currently, they're 12,000 gold down, so they need a little bit more of that in pocket to try and stop Bifrost from ending out this game. They're not close to a soul point, but they've managed to almost crack open that base. No,
here we go. Gonna try and get in, but there's everyone else around this time. It's not a 1v1. He's so dead. You might have a Leandri's lament in inventory for Harpoon, but I feel like he's lamenting the rest of his team going down. That Supreme Display of Talent gets a Supreme Display of absolutely jack all. Now the rest of the chain can come through. Fury will not land anything more with the Spirit Rush. And it's still a 2 for none. This time there's everyone else around.
And this is the thing, this is the first time that Bifrost have burned a lot of the big ultimates without losing anyone first. Now there is still the bullet time. That can clear out a wave, that can threaten, but see what happens if Harpoon gets an angle to even fire that off. Bifrost, when you deal with this momentary numbers advantage, struggle to actually get clean numbers advantages to push into the base so far.
Problem as well with that bullet time is if you are in range of an Aqua Prison, if you're in range of a charm, you're standing still at that point.
And standing still against any of these champions feels pretty bad if you're Harpoon, particularly when you're this far behind. I mean, when MF is so far ahead, you're normally at a point where you look at it and say, look, okay, I can just kind of threaten with an ultimate. You have to get out of it, right? I mean, you have two items now. If you can pin someone in place, they do die, but the threat onto you is so quick, so snappy, you're not even going to get through even just a small portion of your ultimate before you're seriously threatened.
Indeed. You can see, yes, some stacks were sadly lost on that Dark Soul. It's not a book. Sorry about that.
No, it's not a book.
There's no Soul Stealer in inventory right now, but there is a Void Staff.
So I was like, I could kind of understand that with the way you're playing if you're gonna play through like this. But I mean, you have Death Cap, you've got plenty of AP. You can see how much damage Ahri is doing to key targets. No one's exactly built up enough magic resist to really threaten Ahri's DPS numbers. Ahri's still so very far ahead of the curve, and will be very much helping Lucian in doing that damage too.
Imperial Mandate, Staff of Flame Waters, and of course the upgraded Ward Storage. I don't know the name of that item.
Vigilant Wardstone.
Vigilant Wardstone. Thank you very much. In infantry for Nami, of course, because got so much gold early on, can actually get to 3 items on a support, which is great news.
Yeah, and start playing water very, very big, right? Because that extra movement speed to get away from the Nocturne. Actually, at this point, the amount of gold on... Yeah, it's what you're saying, right? You know, like, 3 items on a support, that's great news. It's really rare you get to see that, particularly at this kind of time stamp. None of this hyper late game when you're getting to the world to that, but DuaLL been invested and involved in a lot of these fights, gives them the extra ability to impact these plays. And DuaLL, honestly, is normally a player which I like to see on a lot of the big engaged champions. Been playing a very different role today, though, on the Qiyana or on the Nami, but still seeing a fair amount of value from that. Now Bifrost looking to potentially shut out this game. There is a paranoia though, see what can happen. Can they get into the pit?
They've won the flips before. There's paranoia down, waiting it out. There's no Blasco. Now Qiyana has no way over the wall. It would have to be a steal.
Remember,
time and equalizer. Marlon disappears. Mrozku on the other side needs to try and find their way out. Does get an edge of Ixtal, but it's an edge of nowhere as Harpoon eats 1,000 needles and is death by a few thousand paper cuts. But those paper cuts are made by ginormous scissors. It's a double for Furuy to end it all off. They'll take the Baron, leave Cboi to do that while the rest of the members look to shove in and break the base and possibly take the game.
Yeah, what's one more cut onto 1,000 others? Bifrost gonna finally end out this game.
So well done at this point. There was a few moments where there were a couple picks, but that was it. They could never actually land a decisive fight. It was never a clean win, and now Bifrost with this will move to 5-1. They will be the first seed out of this group, and there will be no tiebreaker required for them. They are going to quarterfinals as the first seed.
This one's just coming in. Not going to be enough. Not going to be nearly enough. And Bifrost again, they had a heart stopping game earlier. This one was much more controlled, much more in their favor, and Mrozku will end their tournament 1-5 in the group stage.
Of course, commiserations to Team ESCA. It's not what they wanted. It's not how this tournament was supposed to go. But at the same time, for Bifrost, this team that for the NLC was not even necessarily supposed to be one of our EU Masters representatives. It was supposed to be JDXL. This was supposed to be a team that
supposed to be. I mean, great many things happen, and Bifrost again, we can see that coming into second seed of the NLC again. NLC, one of these regions which has so much history at this point. 2 finals last year. Now 2 teams in the quarterfinals. One of them is a first seed, one of them is second. Be absolutely hilarious if they matched up against each other. That would be crazy. But either way, getting so many teams out of groups for this region, it means so much for us and what it means to be part of the NLC.
Well, with that resolved, we've still got one final game of regularly scheduled broadcasting to go. BDSA versus Fnatic TQ to decide what could be the last match of the day. Don't go anywhere. Still more to go. See you in a few.